In this video we're going to look at rationalizing surds, and we're going to look at the difficult type ones, and these are a bit tricky. If you don't know how to expand double brackets with surds, you may want to go and practice that before you carry on with this video. It's going to be quite a short video because I'm just going to go through this one kind of particular type of problem. Okay, we have this surd here, and the reason why this is a difficult, this fraction here, and this is the reason why this is a difficult one to rationalize is because on the bottom there's this plus sign in between these two terms here, and or it could be like 1 minus root 3 on the bottom or something like that. But because you're adding something on the bottom together or taking things off on the bottom, then you can't just go ahead and multiply top and bottom by root 3. Okay, so that's a massive problem. If you're adding two things or taking two things away from each other on the bottom of the fraction and one of them is surd, you can't do that. Okay, so you can't times top and bottom by root 3. If you were to do that, try it for yourself, but that surd will not disappear if you do that. Okay, we have to use another trick to do that, and it's to do with like expanding like regular double bracket, algebraic double brackets, and something to do with the difference of two squares, and you'll see why in a moment. Okay, so what you have to do is, first of all, let's put brackets around these numerators and denominators. So when you see this, when you see two terms being added or take away on the bottom of a fraction and you ask to rationalize it, and one of them is a surd, okay, it's really simple. What we're going to do is we're going to times top and bottom, just like before, but we're going to times top and bottom by 1 take away root 3. So it's so you look at the bottom of the fraction, whatever sign that is in the middle, you switch it, so it's a minus, and we're going to times top and bottom by 1 take away root 3. Now, because we're timesing top and bottom by the same thing, we're not actually changing the value of that fraction, but it's going to help rationalize this. Just like, for example, taking 3/5 and timesing top and bottom by 2 to get 6/10, that's still equivalent to 3/5, just as this fraction is going to be equivalent to what we started with. Okay, now in a minute it will become clear as to why we have to times top and bottom by the opposite sign of that bottom thing there. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all is I'm just going to separate them out. I'm going to do the top first, so 2 take away root 3, and it does need a bracket around it, and then 1 take away root 3. Remember, it's the opposite of that sign there, and you times top and bottom by that. Okay, so let's multiply that out. It's going to be 2 take away 2 root 3, take away root 3, which is those two times together, and then the last two is going to be plus root 9, because it's minus times minus is a plus, and root 3 times root 3 is root 9. Okay, so what's that going to turn into? That's a 3. Root 9 is 3. Minus 2 root 3 minus 1 root 3 is minus 3 root 3. And that 3 is going to add the 2 to make 5. So let's just cross that out. So the top is 5 take away 3 root 3. So that's the top. Okay. Okay, now the bottom. Let's do the bottom. So that's going to be 1 plus root 3 bracket 1 take away root 3. And you'll see what happens in this. Okay, so 1 times 1, 1, and then 1 times minus root 3 is minus root 3, so that times that, and then root 3 times positive root 3 times 1 is positive root 3, and then positive root 3 times minus root 3 is negative root 9. Okay, now look what happens here. The middle two terms, minus root 3, add root 3, cancel each other out. And then minus root 9 is the same as take away 3, because root 9 is 3. And then 1 take away that is negative 2. So the bottom becomes an integer. And this will always happen. You will always get an integer as long as you multiply top and bottom by effectively the same bracket, but you switch that sign to its opposite sign. That's all you literally need to do. And that middle, and then you will end up with no surds on the bottom. Okay, now that is the answer, or one version of the answer, but just to clean it up a bit, I mean, that is acceptable. I'm just going to times top and bottom by negative 1, So I'm just going to switch the signs around. So all I've done is times top and bottom by -1, which doesn't really change it again, but this is one acceptable version of the answer, or -5/2 plus 3/2 root 3. They're all equivalent, okay? And if you type the original question in, so if you type that original question in on a calculator, it will give you one of these, probably this middle one here on the calculator. But what I'm telling you is that this thing here is equivalent to that. So if you work out what decimal that is on the calculator and work out what decimal this is on the calculator, they will both be the exact same thing. Now just really quickly, why is it that we multiply by the opposite sign? It's something to do with the difference of two squares, if you remember that. So for example, if you had a bracket that was a minus b and you multiply it by a add b, then you get a squared take away b squared. Remember, that's kind of like the difference to two squares. Well, that's kind of like what you're doing here. What you're saying is, okay, I've got that bracket, which is this one here, and I'm going to multiply by this bracket. And what ends up happening is that the middle two terms cancel out always on a difference to two squares, and you just end up with the front and the end being squared subtracted, and that's literally what's going on here. And let's look at another example, just so that we get an idea of it, and then literally you just got to practice this from afterwards. Let's just do one more example. Okay, here's the question. What you could do is you could pause the video, try it yourself, see if you get the same answer as me. Okay, so you can pause it now. Okay, well, let's go through it. Okay, so first of all, we have to multiply top and bottom. Multiply top and bottom by the opposite of the bottom fraction. So that's 2 the denominator, the opposite sign of that. So it's 2 root 5 add root 3, 2 root 5 add root 3. So you always multiply by the opposite version, effectively, of that bottom of the denominator of the fraction. So this is what you multiply top and bottom by. Okay, so let's do the top. So 5 root 5 plus 5 root 5 take away 2 times 2 root 5 add 3. Let's do that. So that is going to be 10 root 25. That's going to be add 15 root 5. This one's minus 4 root 5, and the last term is just minus 6. Okay, so 15 take away 4 is 11 root 5, and then root 25 is 5, times that by 10 is 50. 50 takes 6, so it's 44 take away 11 root 5. That's the top. Okay, 44 take away 11 root 5. Okay, let's do the bottom. Okay, so the bottom is going to be 2 root 5 take away 3 times 2 root 5 add 3. Now I'm going to do it in full, and remember the middle two terms should cancel each other out. If they don't, and you still end up with something with surds, then you've done something wrong. Okay, so that times that is 4 root 5. That times the end. Oh no, sorry, it's not 4 root 5, it's 4 root 25. So it's 4 root 25, and then 2 root 5 times 3 is positive 6 root 5. Then these two times together is minus 6 root 5. Lo and behold, they cancel each other out. And then those two times together is minus 9. Okay, so the middle two terms cancel out as expected. Root 25 is 5. Times 4 is 20. Take off the 9, that gives you 11. Okay, now that's the answer. But, okay, that is the answer. But look, you can divide everything by 11 here. So 11 goes, because we're dividing by 11, that means we can divide each bit by 11, and we're allowed to do that. Okay, so that's 44 divided by 11 is 4, and 11 divided by 11 is just 1, and then that's 1 root 5. Okay, so this is the answer. But if you got that, that is right. But then it does simplify to that. That's the fully simplified version. So this is equal to that. Okay. Now, I suggest you practice this skill, but just to summarize, okay? Because I like to summarize these things. So whatever surd you have, something like this, 5 take away root 6 over 3 plus root 2 or something like that. And remember, what do you multiply by? You look at the bottom, okay, and you think, okay, well, it's not just, it's two things being added together. So you multiply top and bottom by this almost the same thing, but you just switch the sign. Okay, so you switch, so you look at the bottom, you switch that sign, and then you multiply top and bottom by that. Okay, so for example, right, you tell me, well, okay, you can't tell me obviously because we're not in the class, but if you had something like this, just making it up, root 5 over 7 plus, okay, take away root 5, okay, what would you multiply top and bottom by? 7 add root 5, 7 add root 5. That's what you multiply top and bottom by. You need brackets around that. Okay, so that's how you rationalize difficult surds. And you've got to be able, you've got to practice this, you've got to know it really, really well. Okay? And thank you for watching that. Now you can have a go at the tasks that I've set you on this. Okay? In your next lesson, we'll look at like problem solving with these questions, and then I'll give you some questions to have a go at. Okay? Thank you very much, guys. Oops.